When encountering rebar during drilling, several alternative methods can be employed to cut through it. Firstly, an oxyacetylene torch offers a rapid and efficient solution. However, this method necessitates specialized equipment and strict adherence to safety protocols. Secondly, a plasma cutter provides another viable option for cutting rebar. While effective, it typically involves a higher initial investment and requires a proficient operator. Thirdly, a grinder fitted with a diamond blade presents a more gradual, yet reliable, approach. It's important to note that this method might not be ideal for rebar with larger diameters. Fourthly, a drill equipped with a carbide tip bit can be utilized, particularly if the rebar isn't excessively thick. This method might require multiple passes and a greater time commitment. When opting for a Carbide Sawzall blade, consider these recommendations. Choose a blade with appropriate specifications, generally 10 to 14 teeth per inch and a thickness of at least 1/16 of an inch for cutting rebar. Ensure the blade is sharp, as a dull blade will hinder the cutting process and potentially damage the sawzall. Apply consistent and firm pressure while cutting, ensuring the blade maintains contact with the rebar. Lubricate the blade with oil or cutting fluid to minimize friction and prolong its lifespan. Avoid overheating the blade by taking periodic breaks during prolonged cutting sessions to allow it to cool. Remember to prioritize safety. Always wear appropriate safety gear, including gloves, safety glasses, and ear protection. Ensure adequate ventilation in the work area to mitigate sparks and fumes generated during cutting. Dispose of rebar responsibly by treating it as scrap metal and adhering to local disposal guidelines. The alternative methods for cutting rebar each have their own advantages and disadvantages. An oxyacetylene torch offers speed and efficiency but requires specialized equipment and safety precautions. A plasma cutter is also fast but is more expensive and requires a skilled operator. A grinder with a diamond blade is a slower but effective method, although it may not be suitable for large diameter rebar. A drill with a carbide bit can be used if the rebar is not too thick, but it may take longer and require multiple passes. When using a Carbide Sawzall blade, selecting the right blade is crucial. For cutting rebar, a blade with 10 to 14 teeth per inch and a thickness of at least 1/16 of an inch is recommended. Using a sharp blade is essential for efficient cutting and preventing damage to the sawzall. Maintain firm, steady pressure on the sawzall to ensure the blade engages with the rebar effectively. Applying oil or cutting fluid to the blade can reduce friction and extend its life. It's important to avoid overheating the blade by taking breaks during extended cutting sessions. Always prioritize safety by wearing appropriate gear like gloves, safety glasses, and ear protection. Ensure the work area is well ventilated to minimize exposure to sparks and fumes. Rebar should be disposed of properly as scrap metal. Always be mindful of potential hazards and take necessary precautions to prevent accidents. Cutting rebar can be a challenging task, but with the right tools, techniques, and safety measures, it can be done effectively and safely. Remember to carefully assess the situation and choose the most appropriate method based on the rebar's size and location, as well as the available resources and skills. If you are unsure about any aspect of the process, it is always best to consult with a qualified professional. Consider the environmental impact of your work and take steps to minimize waste and pollution. Dispose of cutting fluids and other materials properly, and recycle rebar whenever possible. Continuously improve your skills and knowledge by learning from experienced professionals and staying up to date on the latest techniques and safety practices. When working with power tools, always follow the manufacturer's instructions and guidelines. Perform regular maintenance on your tools to ensure they are in good working condition. Never operate power tools if you are tired, distracted, or under the influence of drugs or alcohol. Be aware of your surroundings and take steps to protect yourself and others from potential hazards. When working in confined spaces, ensure adequate ventilation and use appropriate respiratory protection. If you are working at height, use proper fall protection equipment and techniques. Always be prepared for unexpected events and have a plan in place for dealing with emergencies. Keep a first aid kit readily available and know how to use it. Consider the long-term implications of your work and strive to create solutions that are sustainable and beneficial to society. Support organizations that promote safety, education, and responsible resource management. Remember that safety is always the top priority, and never take shortcuts that could compromise your well-being or the well-being of others. Before commencing any cutting operation, thoroughly inspect the rebar for any signs of damage or weakness. If the rebar is corroded or fractured, it may be necessary to reinforce it or replace it entirely before attempting to cut it. When cutting rebar that is embedded in concrete or other materials, exercise caution to avoid damaging the surrounding structure. Use appropriate techniques and tools to minimize vibration and impact. If you are cutting rebar near electrical wiring, be sure to de-energize the circuit and take appropriate precautions to prevent electrical shock. Consult with a qualified electrician if you are unsure about any aspect of the electrical system. When cutting rebar that is under tension, be aware of the potential for it to snap or recoil violently. Use appropriate restraints and supports to prevent injury. If you are cutting rebar in a public area, take steps to protect pedestrians and traffic from flying debris. Use barriers or screens to contain sparks and particles. Obtain necessary permits and approvals before commencing any cutting operation. Comply with all applicable regulations and codes. Be respectful of the environment and minimize noise, dust, and other pollutants. Clean up the work area thoroughly after completing the cutting operation. Leave the site in a safe and orderly condition. Document the cutting operation, including the date, time, location, and methods used. Keep records of any incidents or accidents that occur. Share your knowledge and experience with others to promote safety and best practices. Participate in training programs and workshops to enhance your skills and knowledge. Support research and development efforts to improve cutting technologies and safety equipment. Advocate for policies and regulations that promote worker safety and environmental protection. Always strive for excellence in your work and take pride in your accomplishments. Be a role model for others and inspire them to follow your example. Cutting rebar can be a rewarding and challenging task, but it is essential to approach it with knowledge, skill, and a strong commitment to safety. By following these guidelines, you can minimize risks and achieve successful results. In addition to the methods already discussed, hydraulic rebar cutters offer a powerful and efficient alternative. These tools utilize hydraulic pressure to shear through rebar with minimal effort, making them ideal for larger diameter rebar or high-volume cutting applications. However, hydraulic rebar cutters can be expensive and require proper training for safe operation. Electrochemical methods, such as electrolytic cutting, can be used to dissolve rebar at a controlled rate. These methods are often employed in specialized applications where precise cuts are required or where mechanical methods are not feasible. Electrolytic cutting can be slow and requires specialized equipment and expertise. Laser cutting technology has advanced significantly in recent years, making it a viable option for cutting rebar in some applications. Laser cutters offer high precision and can cut through a wide range of materials, including rebar. However, laser cutting systems are typically expensive and require skilled operators. Cryogenic cutting involves cooling the rebar to extremely low temperatures, making it brittle and easier to fracture. This method can be used to cut rebar with minimal deformation or heat-affected zone. Cryogenic cutting requires specialized equipment and careful control of temperature and pressure. Abrasive water-jet cutting uses a high-pressure stream of water mixed with abrasive particles to erode the rebar. This method is capable of cutting through thick rebar and other materials with minimal heat generation. Abrasive water-jet cutting can be expensive and requires careful maintenance of the equipment. When selecting a cutting method, consider the following factors: the diameter and type of rebar, the location and accessibility of the rebar, the required precision and finish, the available resources and expertise, the cost and time constraints, and the safety and environmental considerations. It is always best to consult with a qualified professional to determine the most appropriate cutting method for your specific application. Remember that proper planning, preparation, and execution are essential for successful rebar cutting. By carefully considering all the factors involved and following best practices, you can minimize risks and achieve desired results. Finally, continuous learning and improvement are key to staying ahead in the field of rebar cutting. By keeping up with the latest technologies, techniques, and safety standards, you can enhance your skills and knowledge and contribute to a safer and more efficient work environment.